Okay, it's time for Jerry and the Goddesses, Part 18. I sat down on the edge of the motel room bed and lowered my head into my shaking hands. And Anna sat beside me, rubbing my back and occasionally wrapping her arms around me and squeezing. I took a few minutes to catch my breath and try to compose myself. Everything had happened so fast. One minute I was just beginning to feel accepted by the group of grizzled warfighters at the gun range. An instant later I'm scrambling for my life. An eye blink after that, I was sniping a man 500 yards away like I actually belonged among the warriors around me. Blink, I'm making frantic love to Inanna with an audience of most of those same grizzled warfighters, including Gary. Blink, I'm in the back seat of a four-door pickup barreling down the road, shooting out the tires of a late-model sedan being driven by a psychotic blonde greaser with a Fu Manchu who looked like he wanted nothing more than to eat my liver with fava beans and a nice Chianti. Blink. I'm standing over that same greaser, Gary, next to me, and we're emptying our magazines into him. Except he's not dying, just screaming in rage and pain. Blink. We're driving away, Sarissa holding her hands to the greaser's temples in the rearview mirror. Blink. We're here in the motel and I can't stop trembling. I pissed my pants at some points, but I don't even care. I just need to catch my breath and relax. When the door opened, I jumped and let out a little yelp of fright, but it was just Sarissa. She eyed me with matronly pity and immediately came to my other side, wrapping her arms around me and leaning her head on my shoulders. "It's okay," she said gently. "It's over for now. Nick won't be doing anything but drooling for a while, and there's nothing Astram could have done to him to give him the ability to track us." Gary looked over from his spot in the chair next to the window he'd been peeking out of since we got here. "What am I, chopped liver? I just went through the same damn shit as Jerry, but does anyone want to hold me and tell me it'll be all right? No. Guy just can't catch a break, I tell you." The glint in his eye and his tone betrayed the joke, and I actually chuckled a little at the thought of him pissing his pants and trembling in fear. Nothing could be more ridiculous than that. Sarissa took him a little more seriously, or rather, she decided to run with the joke. She strode over to him, her body shifting as she did. She gained 60 or 70 pounds in 3 steps, most of it in her breasts. She grabbed Gary's head and pulled it to her now enormous bosom and then stroked his hair gently. "There, there, everything will be fine," she said in tones far more exaggerated than she'd used with me. Gary's eyes darted between the mountains of flesh surrounding his head, then he grinned at me like he was in heaven. I couldn't help it. I laughed, and Anna laughed as well. "You look ridiculous, Sarissa." Sarissa let go of Gary and shook her shoulders at us, threatening to knock down the walls with her giant tatas. "Don't be jealous, Miss Itty Bitty Titty Committee." That sent Gary into a fit of laughter with us. Inanna was anything but flat-chested. But compared to Sarissa's current look, yeah. After we recovered, I turned to Sarissa, who'd resumed her normal slim figure. "So what the hell is happening, Sayre? Who is the greaser dude, and who is Astram?" She took a chair opposite the tiny table from Gary. "Astaram is the god of bloodlust and pain. He's an emanation of Ixie, actually, but he came about late enough to evolve a complete mind. Like us, he's been asleep for millennia. The greaser fellow is Nick Buford, a sociopath with dissociative identity disorder. He murdered an innocent woman, a wife and mother, in a sacrifice to Astaram to bring him here. For some reason, I don't know why, Astaram wants you dead. I suspect that he believes it'll weaken Inanna and I, leaving him the only active god." I blinked. Sarissa had just said she didn't know something. The goddess of knowledge. She'd said it once before, but then clarified that she could have known it if only she'd thought to wonder. "You don't know?" I prompted. Sarissa shook her head. "Ignorance is within Astaram's domain. He's able to level a veil of it over matters pertaining to him." I nodded. That made sense, at least in a magical thinking kind of way. "So he made Nick invincible?" "Not quite," Inanna said. I looked at her and she reclined against the headboard. He's feeding his own power to Nick. The spilling of blood produces energy that feeds Astaram, and in turn feeds Nick. Since Nick is a mortal with no access to divine energies, that power has nowhere to go, so it stays inside of him and holds his body together in the same state it was in when it first entered him. It heals him, basically. The harder we hit him, the more he heals, balancing out whatever damage we do with an equal amount of healing. If we destroyed enough of his body fast enough, the energy wouldn't be able to help him. It would burn through whatever remained. But the amount of damage we'd have to do is severe, and I don't think setting off a nuke in central Virginia is a smart move. Jesus, I muttered. It would take a nuke to kill him? And Anna shook her head. I was exaggerating for effect. A hand grenade would probably be enough if it went off inside of him. C4, a tank, a Vulcan minigun. There's a bunch of ways to kill him. It'll just take a little prep time first. You can't just make a Vulcan minigun appear the next time he shows up? Gary asked. I could, and I might, but you know as well as I do they take a second to spin up. Nick is much stronger and faster than a normal human. If we want to take him out for sure, we need an ambush. And that still leaves Asteram. I'm not sure why he's coming after you. Killing you won't weaken us at all. It would just enrage us. I'd dedicate the next few thousand years to making him pay if he did. But by the same token, killing Nick won't weaken him either. And Asteram likes to think of himself as a schemer. He's not, but he makes believe. He'll have some plan to take over the world and twist it into his own vision of heaven. We're going to need to stop him or billions will die. We all absorbed that for a moment. So how do we stop him? I asked. And Anna looked at Sarissa, who was staring out the window. She remained silent for a long time before she spoke. I don't know. I hate saying that, but I really don't. How can you not know? I wondered out loud. I didn't mean for it to sound like an accusation, but it kind of did. Sarissa turned to me, looking sad. My knowledge is not infinite. I have limits. All of the gods do. I have access to all knowledge known by mankind, past, present, or future, though the latter is, well, it's complicated. I'm also an immortal being of phenomenal cosmic power in my own rights, and I have even more knowledge which I have gained the old-fashioned way. But I don't know everything. Fulla, Inanna said. Sarissa looked at her and then nodded slowly. Yes, if anyone knows how to destroy a god or force him into a slumber, it would be Fulla. I racked my brain for a second before awareness came in. You mean Frigga's handmaiden from the Poetic Eddas? The end.